Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now with the first week of Battlegrounds being midway through, basically, I kind of feel fairly confident naming my personal MVPs. Obviously there are many champions that work extremely well overall, a lot of champions that I will not mention because they will be kind of somewhat more or less obvious. For instance, I'm not going to be mentioning Omega Sentinel, which I pointed out as a potential MVP, and she does amazingly well. I will be mentioning quite a few other champions though, and with some of the ones that I mentioned as potential MVPs in one of my previous videos, we're going to be checking in and see how they're actually doing. So first one's Peni. Peni is primarily a defensive menace in this meta. She's so much harder to deal with than virtually any other of the metas because of the explosive personality node. And she does have far fewer counters. Now, my personal favorite counters for Peni Parker in this meta are Gorr and Misty Knight. Gorr has been putting in a ton of work. Now, some fights I do mess up because Gorr is a type of champion you really need to get used to using Gorr in a sense, and I haven't used him all that much and all that long, but I have had some amazing sub 1 minute takedowns at like 90+% health with Gorr, and Misty Knight is kind of like the more stable, slightly bit slower, but definitely a very stable way how to take down Peni Parker without any issues at all whatsoever. So though there are some of my personal favorite options against Peni, but she's definitely an absolute menace in this meta. Killmonger, I think, is arguably the best defender because of how tanky he is, how much power he gains, the fact that you can't armor break him, basically eliminated his biggest weakness. And Killmonger has been putting in so much work getting in timeouts or just completely stalling opponents for time, and I have been fully aware of that. And he's such a strong placement where even the champions that do work well against Killmonger, like I have seen people use Namor, but it still takes like 100+ seconds to take him down. And that's kind of like the best thing in general, is because even if opponent does get a good counter, he's still going to be a very big problem. So I always feel safe drafting Killmonger for defense, and he's been putting in a ton of work for me in my ranked matches. And another one is Korg. Korg in this meta seems to be doing exceedingly well. Now, he does have a few more counters / options. Quickly before, wanted to mention that against Killmonger, obviously people are using Namor quite often. One of my personal favorite counters is Mr. Negative. Because of the double petrify, you can make that power gain work for you. And on top of that, obviously, I have seen people bring in Namors and Falcons, but even with Falcon, again, it was nearly a timeout when I tried myself. So there aren't that many quick champions that destroy Killmonger. One champion that I did want to give a shout out to is Hood. I think Hood is a very good counter for Killmonger, and those of you who know, those know. And similarly to Korg, Korg does not have that many great counters in this meta, and he's just a very big stalling problem. So Korg is also very worthwhile to add for your defense. And another kind of like MVP for me personally, champion that I do draft quite a lot and also occasionally use offensively. I have used him against Wolverine Weapon X and a handful of other champions on offense as well, but primarily he's obviously a defender, and that is Mysterio. Mysterio always stalls for a lot of time whenever he throws the special attacks, and his ability accuracy can't be reduced as well. And it's just a beautiful sight to behold, to watch people bring in somebody like Hercules and still take like 115 seconds and barely get him down or something. So Mysterio has been definitely extremely potent. And Emma Frost. Emma Frost is probably the best mutant defender in this meta because, again, her biggest weakness, which is armor break, has gotten eliminated. Now, there are ways around her, and obviously you do need to be wary of Omega Sentinel and Nimrod because those guys will still nuke her down. But with all that in mind, she's still an absolute powerhouse, and she, again, takes time to get rid of. She's not the defender that's going to have your opponent be KO'd, which is 100% defender that is going to ask for a lot of time to be put away. So Emma Frost very worthwhile rank up. I actually ended up ranking Emma Frost to rank 3 for this Battlegrounds meta, and I don't regret it. I think she put in her work. Now, one of my MVPs for me personally has been my rank 4 Gorr, and I'm still learning with him, and if I do screw up some matchups, I do screw them up, but Gorr has been a menace. He is one of the best Peni Parker counters. He can take down MODOK extremely easily. He works really well against Omega Sentinel, against Nimrod, against Warlock, and a whole bunch of other matchups. And he's also a tough defender. Obviously, if opponent has a very solid Mystic attacker, he can be nuked down. But in virtually all of the cases, he is a very, very tough and problematic defender. And I honestly draft him over my Hulkling most of the time in this meta particular, because Hulkling, obviously, to get a full potential offensively, requires to hit opponent's block to get those Pierce buffs, and that's not the best thing. Hulkling can be used against Peni Parker, by the way, quite well, but you will be forced to take one explosive personality detonation to your face. And Misty Knight. Misty Knight has been, again, absolutely clutch against Omega Sentinel, against Warlock. Misty Knight has been absolutely clutch against Peni Parker. She does extremely well against Thing as well, because she never triggers the protection, and has been one of those kind of champions that I put in quite a lot of faith in, and it was pretty much all justified. She has been performing absolutely beautifully, and if I do lose when I use Misty Knight, it's pretty much almost always because it's my own fault, or I was stuck in a terrible choice between matchups. But yeah, she has been doing a phenomenal work. Super happy with my rank 3. And then Galan. I don't have much to say about Galan here, because that man's a menace. The man is an insta-ban. Whenever you see Galan in Battlegrounds, just ban him. That's what I do. I don't think I have played a single match where opponent was allowed to bring in their Galan. Because the problem with Galan is he's an absolute menace on defense, and you do need fairly specific counters to do well against him. But if opponent has Galan, then he can turn at whim, like on a moment's notice, and use Galan offensively and just nuke down many of your opponents like one level 1 or one level 2 or something. The dude is just a beast. He's probably my most wanted champion in the game right now, but he's also a champion that I'm kind of planning to chase cautiously for now, because, and I want to be very clear, I am not saying that Galan is going to get rebalanced. What I am saying is that if any of the champions that Kabam has released so far is going to get balanced, it's Galan. So I'm not saying Kabam will do it, but if there's one, if Kabam is going to tune down one champion release this year, it's going to be Galan. That's what I believe in. I'm not saying they will do it, but I'm genuinely worried that they will. Overall, obviously, there are plenty of other phenomenal champions coming from virtually every class. We have Mr. Fantastic still putting in work, Immortal Abomination. Scorpion is also quite a frequent ban of mine, and Scorpion is very powerful this meta, so is Overseer. And Joe Fixit has been putting in work for quite a few people. Then in skill class, we still have Kingpin, we still have Nick Fury, we still have Hitmonkey. There are tons and tons of viable options, and just because I didn't mention every single champion doesn't mean that I undervalue them. It just means that I didn't want this video to be 30 minutes long, and I myself, use many more champions, and I kind of switch some around and still experiment and still test about. But in general, I kind of enjoy this meta so far, at the very least on victory track, as far as I have gotten. And yeah, this is much better than what we had in the last beta, with no nodes or smaller health pools and stuff like that. Much more exciting. I am, however, absolutely terrified of the next meta. I will make a video on Saturday or Sunday about my potential kind of predictions on MVP characters, just like I did with Bulwark, and I think I did quite accurate guesswork. But this meta looks absolutely terrifying. we'll see how it works out. And I hope you guys found this video useful. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next